This is part 26 of a series of a step-by-step restoration of a Singer Model 337. In part 25 we did the wax and shine. So since that video I went ahead and had 3 coats of wax on all the parts of the machine there, the covers and the cover plate and so forth, and then I put everything back on. So what I'd like to do now is take a look at the foot controller or the foot pedal. When I was doing the test the other day on the motor to see if it worked, what I noticed is this pedal, it has to go down about halfway before it starts to work the motor, and then it just works the motor, kind of like full out. And that's fairly common with these older Singer foot controllers. They're not electronic. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. See, it's going down and down and nothing's happening. When it gets about halfway, you can hear the motor start straining. It's getting a little bit of juice. Still just a little, still. Now it's barely starting to turn, and then it goes all out. It's down as far as it'll go, and it doesn't go any faster. So I can let up and go down, but that's about it. So I normally take these apart and clean them and adjust them anyway, but I especially need to do this because I'd like to get a little more variance of speed, a little more control of this. So let me get it unplugged here, and this opens up very easily. There's just 4 screws on the bottom of this one, and they go right through the little rubber feet. And these are kind of unusual rubber feet because they, well, I'll show them to you when I get them open. They just don't go on the bottom plate here. They go, one edge of the rubber foot goes around the corner of the rubber plate, I guess to keep it more secure. I used to be able to buy these feet for about 50 cents, and then the last time I looked, almost a year ago, the only place I can find them were $2.50 per foot. So I may have to go to the hardware store or something and just find the plain rubber feet that don't go around the corners here. But maybe somebody else is selling them now. Oh, I got these pretty well done here. There we go. There we go. So there's always some dust and dirt inside. I've never found anything live. And this is the Bake Light, I think is what it was called. Bake Light. And it's common that the little button comes out. It's pretty dirty too, and it just kind of fits on here, drops in from the inside out, and then it fits on here slanted towards the front, and it comes up kind of in here, I think, and so forth. So let's take a little closer look at this. Oh, here's the little weird rubber feet. The first time I thought they were just little rubber feet circles, but you can see that almost half of it has a molded piece. It's all one part that fits around the corner of that. Slips right on, and then you put the screw through it. Fortunately for me, these are in good shape. This machine might have been mounted in a cabinet, and this controller would have been clipped into a knee controller, and that really saves the wear and tear on these feet, because they're still rounded. Usually after they've been on the floor this many years, they're flattened out, and some of them are torn, and but these are still pretty supple. And what I do is, this is a lid from a detergent, just laundry detergent. I save the lids, and I got an ounce or two of alcohol in there, just rubbing alcohol. So I'm just going to drop those in there with the screws and let them sit for a while before I clean them. So there is a rod, a screw that goes from here to the back, and there's the head of the screw in there, and you can adjust this by turning that screw to adjust how much play there is in this. The idea is when you push this down, see the cords are mounted to the block, and then these kind of copper pins will connect with this. So the power is going through here, and there's little carbon discs that get compressed when you push this, and it moves them closer and closer together, so it provides less and less resistance, so you get more power. And then at a certain point, this bracket with tabs contacts these pins, and that's just full out. The electricity is just going right through with no resistance from the carbons. So because I got to clean the cord on this anyway, I'm just going to take these connections off here, and I'll show them to you. This is where you maybe would want to take a picture, because the curved one always goes to the right. See, one is just straight up in here, because it comes in over here, and the straight one goes to the left, and the curved one comes up to the right. And then there's little copper clamps with some chromium screws that go through the contact rings on the cord. So we don't want to lose those. And then let's talk about this cord for a moment. This part had been pulled out this is where the cord goes in, and then it matches up with this part, and there's little raised edges here that can clamp the cord, and then this was designed to go in the machine and be clamped in there. So this was the stress point instead of on the wire itself. This is rubber, and it cleans up good. The cord itself, the way I clean this is just like I clean the other parts when you saw me do it at the sink in the kitchen. What I do is take the ends of this, and would get it kind of like this and this and this. So I would clean up this much by hand, take the rest, put it in the sink, spray it real quick, and then rub it down with this light duty sponge, while it's got the crud cutter on it, then spray it off, rinse it off, dry it. And it's just a faster and better way to me. But these ends, I would just clean. I would take some of the crud cutter and put it on here, get it onto the cord, clean a few inches of it. And I'm sure it's vinyl, some type of vinyl. If something was really stubborn, I would take my toothbrush maybe to get in there and clean up right around the plug pins where it's hard to get that cotton in there. Little spots like that. I can take this and use it to scrub this. So I think you're getting the idea here. Dry this off. So it cleans up pretty good. This is blue. This is there weren't too many blue, or I think they call it seafoam green. It cleans up pretty good. So I would do that. You can see how this is faded in color compared to the more of the blue. Inside the top of this plastic cover, it's more blue. It's almost robin egg blue. So this machine got quite a bit of sunlight in its day. But that's how I would clean up the cord. Clean this part by hand, put the rest in the sink, spray it, wipe it down with the sponge, rinse it, and we're good to go. And then this part, I would either use a metal cleaner or maybe my Dremel. Just to make sure that there wasn't any oxidation on here. Clean it up real good. And then you can see how it's a little bit bent. So I'd probably take my channel locks or my needle nose and just try and straighten that out a little bit. That looks a little bit better. I'll probably work on that a little bit more. That looks better. So, the cord. Okay, now for the rest of this, I can go ahead and show you how the rest of it looks here. There's two screws with washers that hold the body of this to the base plate. The base plate's like the top. I call it bakelite. There's a couple more. There's a screw and a washer to hold one, screw and a washer to hold two. Underneath, then this whole thing will lift up with the little mechanism. It fits in a slot here, like that. When it's screwed down, that gives the kind of the rocker arm to move the mechanism, the spring. Then you can see in here there's some dirt. I usually take the Bakelite and spray it with the crud cutter too, just to get all the years of grime off of it and everything. There is two little washers here, and I don't know what these are made of. they kind of look like a cardboard, but I was messing around with one time and it snapped in half. It's some kind of fibers thing. So I don't know if it's asbestos, if it's like an insulator kind of thing, but the hole through here is solid with this, and this is like porcelain. Like if any of you have seen the old light fixtures, like in a closet or something, it's a porcelain kind of thing. And the holes go all the way through, so there's no electricity on these screws. So I don't know if it's just the cushioning, and I don't think it's just the cardboard though. So this I would clean up with the crud cutter in the sink also, including the actual button here. This you can clean up with alcohol or a crud cutter. There's usually just some dust, and might see some black dust, which would be from the carbon pieces inside. If this copper was real tarnished, I can run the Dremel on it, or use a little metal polish on it. I've had a couple that were pretty green and nasty looking, so I just figured they were in an area that got high humidity or maybe got flooded one time. So here's the alcohol. You can clean it up, get the smell and get the dust off of it. I've never like sprayed this with alcohol or the crud cutter, because it's not there you can see some stuff coming off there, and it's not watertight here, so I've just never sprayed it with anything. I've always just kind of hand cleaned it. You can take this screw out, and these little pieces and the little copper strip will come out. That's what I did the time, and I polished them with metal and buffed them with the Dremel, and they cleaned right up beautifully with just the Brasso. Okay, let's see if you can, I'm going to turn it like this. This is right side up. It says Semantco, Singer Manufacturing Company, so that's the part that would face up when you put it in there. You can see in here there's a little nut. So the screw goes through and there's a nut, like an adjusting nut. So if you wanted to take it apart lefty-loosey, if you wanted to tighten it, you would try to, oh boy, it's really stiff. So let's see if I can break that nut free. I've always thought of it as like a lock nut. Wow, that's really tight. So I would loosen it, and I would adjust this in a little bit, and then tighten that nut back up. So I think that's what it's for, is when you get it adjusted the way you want. Let's see. It goes on like that, then I should be going left to loosen it. Yikes. I've never had one this, even the one that was all green before wasn't this hard. Might have to get another plier to hold that base in there. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with that. At least maybe I can put some penetrating oil or WD-40 and get that loosened up. It doesn't look bad in there. I'm not sure why it's so hard to turn. It doesn't look like a lot of rust. I've seen a couple videos on eBay about this where they and people always talk about adjusting this so it's about 1/8 of an inch in. I guess which would be more about like that. But I do know that I bought one of these once that was already damaged and broken, and when I took this all apart, there's little tubes in there of little carbon lozenges, little flat discs. And I was hoping to get this open and show you that. And the discs, the last couple of discs on each end had burn marks on them. And I cleaned one with a pencil eraser and one very light. They're real fragile. And so I ended up breaking 2 of them, got 2 clean, broke 2, and just put the ones I had left in and adjusted it up. So it seemed to work better. It seemed when I pushed that button, you know, I would get the machine moving a little bit more till it got up to here and it was full blast when that contact's made like that. So I was real proud of myself, and left it plugged in, and I went and had a cup of coffee. I came back about 20 minutes later, and I picked it up, and it was not like hot, but it was very warm. So what I realized is I had adjusted this too much to the point that some current was going through even when the machine wasn't in use. And I had turned the machine off, but I left the cord plugged in the wall. So I thought, uh-oh, you know, I put this in like about 1/4 of an inch, and I said, oh. So that's when I searched the video, and I backed it out some, and it worked as good. I didn't have as much speed variables as I had when I put it in about 1/4 inch deep, but it was still a lot better than this. Nothing happens until it's halfway down, then it just runs full bore, you know, like nothing. Okay, there's a little bit, and boom, full bore. So also the top speed picked up. So I think the burnt carbons on the end were restricting some of the flow. So I'd really like to be able to show you that. And I think what I'll do is I'll put some WD-40 on that and see if I can't get that off. And if I can, I'll add on to the video to show you. In the meantime, these little rubber feet guys, they've been soaking there a while, and I'll just take them and scrub them good, so if any of the rubber has oxidized, it'll get that off and clean them up, and it'll make them more pliable. And my granddad is the one who showed me taught me how to clean wipers on his old Chevy truck with a little tiny brass wire brush and alcohol. And he said you could get twice the life here in Arizona out of those windshield wipers if you cleaned them about twice a year with alcohol. So that's what I do this for. And these are in good shape. So I won't have to spend, you know, like $10 or something to get some new ones. To get these cleaned up. After I scrub them, I just kind of dip them back in the alcohol to rinse off anything that's loose on them. And then I just let them dry, and they'll get a little tiny bit discolored after that. You'll see when they dry. And then I just take my gloved hand and put a drop or two of that Tri-Flow oil, and then I rub them back. I rub it all with oil and let it sit while I'm doing something else, or maybe overnight, and then come back with just a cloth and wipe off the excess oil. And once a year when I do my wife's machines, she has 3 or 4 machines that have this type of a foot pedal, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just open it up, blow dust out any air, look at everything good, maybe put a drop of oil on that rocker, clean the feet, stuff like that. So I'll show you before I put anything on there how they get kind of a haze on them. And I've been doing that for a long time, and haven't had any negative effect from using these. These came out good, so no worries there. I clean the screws a little bit, but I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm going to put some WD-40 on there